Yes, I was a guest of Lauren's, and then George passed out the sheets with "What's your favorite your worst, travel experience?" And I laughed and thought, I have a few of those. My original story was about being abandoned in an Italian train station, and then being on the back of a Ducati with a police officer to take me to the hotel to get me through the rest of the trip to find the friend that abandoned me. But then I thought of a worse one, so I'm going to switch it up midstream. But at some point in college, my sister was still in high school, and she was going on a chorus trip to New York. They were doing the performance tour, they were doing 2 shows, and some other touristy things. And she asked if my mother and I could be chaperones. We're the responsible ones. And so we said, of course, free trip to New York. We'll go with some high school kids, we'll watch them, and we'll get free shows and have a fun trip to New York. And so that was about a 14, maybe a 16-hour charter bus ride. And the evening that we left from Watkinsville, which is right outside of Athens. And about an hour in, when we got to Commerce, we had to stop the bus and let a young lady off because she was terribly ill. So her parents came and picked her up, and then the journey commenced, and then I became terribly ill on the charter bus. Unfortunately, there was no one to pick me up because I was with my mother, and there was no way for us to turn the bus around and stop the trip. So I silently vomited the entire overnight trip into plastic bags. And we tried to keep it quiet because we didn't want to freak the students out. We just wanted to get to New York and put me up in the hotel room so that I could recover. Thankfully, no one else got sick on the trip, but we arrived early in the morning and had about 2 hours to unpack, get settled at the hotel, which was in New Jersey, before we took another charter bus into the city. And the first day was a lot of touristy things, and my mother and I, who thankfully had had some European travel experiences, we knew how to manage the subway. So we felt confident going on the subway from point A to point B, and we thought we would just be meeting up with everyone else when they got there. But everyone else was traveling on a charter bus in downtown New York. So my mother and I, we were always about 2 hours ahead of everyone else. So we got a lot done on the trip while everyone else spent most of it on the charter bus. So we saw some great shows. We saw Spamalot, which was wonderful. We saw Light in the Piazza, which was fantastic. We had a great trip. And then the last day, we went to visit Ground Zero, and we also spent some time in Little Italy and Chinatown. And about 5 minutes before we got off the bus at Chinatown, it started to pour. And we still got off the bus and walked around and through and in Chinatown. And I had these sandals that had absorbent, I guess is the best word, absorbent foam heels. And we were basically trudging through inches of rain and fish water for the last few hours of this trip before we got back on the bus and drove another 14 hours home. And so I decided that before I got on the bus for the last time, that I would remove my sandals, and with some of the extra plastic bags that I had, just wrap my feet in plastic bags, and those were my shoes for the rest of the ride home. So, thank you.